The circus that is the long protracted transfer of Morgan Gibbs-White. Everyone knows what's been going on. Marinakis doing his best Marinakis things. Marinakis doing Marinakis things, basically. And let's see what the latest is, because Sky Sports says that Nottingham Forest have now written to Tottenham and Morgan Gibbs-White agent, putting them on legal notice, warning them of the considering legal action over what they consider is an illegal approach and breach of confidentiality. Tottenham believe they have done nothing wrong and they remain interested in completing the deal for Morgan Gibbs-White. So they've just written to Tottenham, they've written to Morgan Gibbs-White representatives, just telling them that we're considering legal action. The Mail are reporting that Morgan Gibbs-White has held talks with Nottingham Forest over his future on Monday morning. His stance has unchanged, though. He remains open to leaving and is keen on the Tottenham transfer. Nottingham Forest are open to selling him for the right price. Ben Jacobs says that Nottingham Forest are offering Morgan Gibbs-White a new deal to prevent the move to Tottenham. More clarity on whether Morgan Gibbs-White's move to Tottenham will go ahead will not be revealed until late next week. Not even early next week, late next week, which is very, very frustrating. An ITK on social media that goes by the name of THFC Himothy says that Nottingham Forest have taken Tottenham to court. The release clause for Morgan Gibbs-White is not all paid for up front. It's over 2 years. Spurs have offered extra money to help negotiations, but the Forest owner wants more. However, it seems that Forest have done something wrong in the legal process and Spurs are filing a complaint. Levy is offering extra money to help ease the negotiations and all situations caused. He first offered one in the region of 1 to 3 million to Forest. However, Levy is not afraid to move on from Morgan Gibbs-White if this drags on or costs more further.
So have we pulled the reverse? That is what Himothy is saying. We've turned the tables. That would be classic Levy to make with the owner Marinakis thinking he's got the upper hand, and then all of a sudden he's pulling that reverse card, and all of a sudden he's complaining about Nottingham Forest for something they've done wrong, which I wonder what that could possibly be. But in terms of the other stuff, the contract situation, I would be shocked if Gibbs-White, if they can convince him to sign a new deal off the back of this whole situation. But if you remember the Olise situation, it was fairly similar, and he did end up signing a new deal at Crystal Palace to ward off interest from Chelsea after it looked like it had all been agreed. So there is kind of precedent in the Premier League for that happening. But if he wants to leave, there's reports, he's only wants Tottenham and he really wants to move. I'll be shocked if Forest can convince him to sign a new deal. I really would, unless Forest really convince Gibbs-White that there's no way they're making this Tottenham move happen. And if that's true, and maybe he would consider a bit of a pay bump, but would they take the release clause out? The contract obviously makes it a lot more difficult for him to move in the future, and obviously probably rules out a move this summer anyway if he does sign a new deal. So I'd be shocked if he signs it. It takes the power away from him. But if he looking for a new kind of pay increase and pay rise in the meantime while this move is stalling or falling through, maybe that's something he'd consider, but I'd be shocked. And that would be a real kick in the teeth if he signs a new deal.
The thing for me is what Ben Jacobs is saying is like nothing's going to be revealed or decided till late next week. I mean, people need to remember, Nottingham Forest need to remember that they're dealing with a human being here, like in Morgan Gibbs-White, a player that wants to kick on with his career, wants to know the clarity of his future. And everything is just up in limbo right now in terms of Forest's transfer business, where they're going to be next season. Spurs, do they stick twist? Are we going to go for Morgan Gibbs-White? Are we going to get him through the door? Are we going to have to move on? And Morgan Gibbs-White surely needs to know where he's going to be playing next season. Just like I keep saying it, but it just gets more true and more true every single day. Like, this situation is no good for any of the parties. And it's just like such an egotistical kind of sway from Marinakis. Like, what is he trying to get out of this? Because the player doesn't want to be at his club. If he wants a few more million, Levy apparently has offered him a few more million. So what is there left to do here?
If I'm Marinakis and if I'm trying to see where he's come from, he would probably say, yeah, Morgan Gibbs-White probably isn't happy with the situation, but maybe he should have thought of that before reading the release clause.
Yeah, but this isn't even helping Nottingham Forest.
I agree. It's because it's delaying their transfer activity. We know you've got a player who wants to leave, and it's delaying you being able to replace him and reinvest the money. I think it doesn't help them. It only makes it, from a PR standpoint, look like they're trying to keep their best player and they don't want to lose him without a fight. But if it is going to end with him leaving, then the longer this is drawn out, the harder it is going to for them to replace him and things like that, unless they're wanting to replace Gibbs White before they allow this transfer to go through so they get the best price. Because everyone knows if they sell Gibbs White, the price for whoever they're going for probably goes up by a few extra million. And we've dealt with that before a lot of the time where we're negotiating for a player, and a lot of the times while we're negotiating, we kind of sometimes will sign a player or we'll go for that replacement, and we'll have that deal kind of sealed before we sell the player that we're looking to sell, because we know as soon as that sale goes through, people know that you've got X amount to play with, so they put the money up. I think a lot of clubs have had that kind of issue, so maybe that's something they're trying to do, delay it so they can get someone in before they allow the transfer to go through. But at the end of the day, he wants a bit more money out of the situation. He feels like there's been some sort of wrongdoing or whatever, and so he's trying to put a case forward that this transfer shouldn't happen, or there should be a delay in this transfer. He's trying to make it as difficult as possible so he doesn't go down without a fight. He likes to complain. He likes to send these legal issues to various parties. He's doing it again. He's trying to make it as difficult as possible for Tottenham. But if that release clause is there, it looks like he might not have a leg to stand on, but I guess we'll find out next week, really. But I agree, it's a frustrating delay considering we're now 5 days after he was supposed to have that medical, and we thought the deal was done. And now we're in this kind of limbo situation. I still think it will get done. I haven't really heard anything to suggest the deal is off or this isn't going to happen. It just sounds like it's being delayed. Now, that was the initial reporting. It wasn't going to stop the deal, but it's only going to delay it. And that's probably what the delay looks like, what we're in now, this limbo state.
If Sky Sports are claiming, what Sky Sports are claiming is true, that they've now written to Tottenham and Morgan Gibbs White agent, putting them on legal notice, warning them that they are considering illegal action. If they really thought they had a proper leg to stand on, surely they would have just taken out legal action already.
Well, not necessarily, because they might be doing that to strong arm Tottenham into a few extra million. If they're actually going to, might be a threat to say either you pull out the deal or you pay the X amount of money, and either you do those things or we're going to submit this legal case and you're going to be in trouble, when you might get a fine, or even if it's really egregious and they have real evidence, maybe even more serious than a fine. I highly doubt it will get to that situation, but that's kind of what they're threatening here, and I think this is probably their way to try and get a few extra million. Now, Tottenham might turn around and say, all right, you can threaten that, but we've done nothing wrong. You've got no evidence. You can threaten this all you want, but all you're getting is 60 million. Or they can say, you know what, we don't want this headache. Let's just pay the money and this legal issue goes away. There's a few different things. It depends what Forest's intentions are. Is their intention to get some more money out of us, or is their intention for us to pull out the deal? That kind of depends.
Yeah, I would assume it would be more money, to be honest, because it's clear that Morgan Gibbs White wants to go. They've been trying to get him to sign a contract for the last year. He hasn't been playing ball. And even now, of late, they're talking about trying to get him to sign a new contract, and he's got no interest in doing that. So, in my opinion, this whole play and this whole ploy is to get a bit more money, closer to what their valuation is on Morgan Gibbs White. But I'm thinking if they do go straight down the legal route, surely if they think they got a case and they can be successful out of it, they'll get some nice compensation out of it, probably more than what Spurs are going to offer in terms of the 1 to 2, 3 million, whatever it is.
Well, it's difficult again because I was reading and looking up about people talking about this case, like more experts, and they were saying Forest will have to kind of prove damages. They're going to have to prove damages in terms of what they think the player is worth compared to what they would have gotten, and that's what the damages would have been. Now, they have to prove that. They have to prove they could have gotten more money out of the situation. They have to prove his transfer value is worth X amount compared to the release clause, which they're only getting, which has been, and they have to prove that Tottenham induced the breach of contract. It wasn't just a breach from the agent side, that Tottenham have wrongdoing and they've induced the breach. They're the ones who either encouraged, or they're the ones who not forced, but they basically encouraged the breach of contract, knowing it was a breach of contract. I think all these things, I can't see how it's provable. How would have Tottenham known there's a secret release clause? Right, so to induce the breach of contract, they must have known not only that there's a secret release clause, but there's a Tottenham must have known there's a confidentiality agreement around the release clause, which they would then have to induce the breach. So how can Forest prove that Tottenham have known all these things, right? That they knew there was an NDA. I don't know how they know all these things. So I don't understand how Forest can prove the damages against Tottenham.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know, but I'm not a lawyer, so maybe they do have some sort of evidence. They do have all these things. That's the theory behind it and the logic. Whether they can prove all these things, I just can't really see how. But I don't. What do I know?
But even if there is an NDA, that's still got nothing to do with Tottenham. That's all to do with Morgan Gibbs White's representatives and Nottingham Forest.
But they're saying unless Tottenham induced the breach.
I mean, what can they do to do that? They ask for it, but even if they ask for it, that's on the other party to say no. We're under an NDA. We can't say anything.
Correct, but let's say they then said that, but Tottenham said, well, tell us anyway, or convince them to reveal the figure. That maybe could be seen as inducing the breach because they're convincing them to break the contract. So Tottenham would have a role to play in it. That's the theory. I'm not saying that's what we've done. I'm just saying that I was listening to one of these experts talk about it, and that's he's saying that's kind of what the what Tottenham's wrongdoing, and obviously also an illegal approach for the player as well, which we know probably is true. But again, we've spoken about that. That's something that all clubs do nowadays. That law seems to be completely outdated and it's not fit for purpose because everyone knows that transfers these days work. You talk to the player first, then you talk to the club, because there's no point negotiating with the club if you don't even know if the player wants to come. It's a waste of time. So that is how modern day transfers work. So that's one part of it. And obviously the breach, in theory, it's between Forest, Gibbs White and the agent. But if there's evidence that Tottenham have induced it, and then there's evidence that...
Please tell me how Tottenham would have induced it and strong-arming Morgan Gibbs White and his representatives into having to tell them something that's under an NDA. I think that whole stance and that whole kind of narrative is totally ridiculous.
I agree, but I agree with you. I don't really see how because that means Tottenham would have known about the NDA and all these kind of things, which I don't see how without being told about it. How did they know about it? But I agree with you. It's probably frivolous, but if they think they have a case and all these different things, right, and they submit a legal proceeding, all it's going to do is drag things out, and it's going to take time, and you're going to have to, they're going to have to work out where the correct position is, and someone's going to have to adjudicate, and that's always going to take time.
Unless there's texts, emails, or anything substantial that people can look in. Yeah, I'm saying, but unless there is, and there's anything substantial that people can look into, then there's no case here, surely.
I reckon there probably isn't a case. I think it's just delay tactics from Marinakis.
And are Nottingham Forest's agents that stupid to have a paper trail on something that they've got an NDA on? I'm sure something just came out in a meeting between the two parties.
Mm-hmm. Unless they didn't expect this to happen. You know what I mean? Unless they were...
I think Nottingham Forest's... I think that... CAA, Stella, the agents of Morgan Gibbs White will know full well what Marinakis is like.
Correct, but still, how often does this kind of thing happen in this day and age? What's it called? A legal complaint about an illegal approach and all this NDA stuff. It's very rare, isn't it? This is not a common case. Yeah. So maybe this is something that that either the agent or Tottenham overlooked. That's also a possibility. Again, I'd like to think these guys are experts and they've got every base covered, but mistakes can be made. And maybe this is something that they just thought we'll find out the release clause, we'll trigger the release clause, and Forest can't do anything and they're going to have to move on. Maybe they didn't anticipate this happening from Marinakis. Maybe they just thought he'll kind of take it on the chin. And they didn't expect him actually to go this far.
Marinakis ain't taking anything on a chin.
Oh, clearly, but I'm just saying maybe that was a thought process going into this deal. I'm just saying that's also a possibility. I don't obviously know, but I'm saying it's possible mistakes were made in the dealing.
What we do know for facts is that this transfer saga is an absolute circus right now, and it needs to come to some sort of resolution fairly quickly. I mean, Ben Jacobs is saying we'll hear more about it towards the end of next week, but even that is just way too long. This deal should have been wrapped up, whether a yes or a no, right now, so all parties can move on. And it's still becoming a bit too tedious now, isn't it?
Well, we're sitting here on a football fan channel talking about legal proceedings, so it's not exactly something we want to be doing, is it? We want to be talking about Morgan Gibbs-White and how he's going to fit in at Tottenham and football. We want to talk about football, but Marinakis has put us in this spot. What can we do?
Bloody Marinakis, man, I swear.